Interview has been long awaited because unfortunately Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst had a bad cold when we were scheduled to do it a couple of weeks ago. So she's feeling much better. I just saw her. She looks great and sounds great. So hopefully we'll get her on here. And she is a psychologist. Here she is with decades of experience. We did an interview a few months ago last year where we talked about men and intimacy. And so, of our upcoming book, When Your Ex Turns the Kids Against You, from a psychological perspective, worked beautifully. About what are some of the things that people can do to protect their relationship with their children pre-separation, during very difficult separation, and post-separation. So before you even introduce yourself, Gloria, um, I asked you beforehand, and I'll say it again, is it okay for me to use the word parental alienation to describe this relationship dynamic? Or is there something else I should be saying?
Yeah, from my perspective, that is the truth. That's the reality. And
Okay,
I,
and that's what experts use, that
mm,
term,
right,
right? Okay. Yeah, that's why we use the term. I know it's a little controversial, but that's the term most
right,
therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists use. That's what lawyers use. And
right.
so we want to use the term that people are familiar with to describe what the experts use as well. So we're all
Right.
on the same page. So now, Dr. Gloria, can you officially introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
So I'm Gloria Vanderhorst. I'm a psychologist. I've been in practice for 50 years and I covered lifespan. I started my practice with preschool children and have seen people throughout the lifespan. And I have done divorce work, significantly testified in court, done evaluations of children and adults, helped people post divorce to try to do a better job at parenting their children. It's a very, very difficult time. And
Yeah.
I have very strong opinions
Oh, I
about
can't wait
what
to
we're
hear them.
doing wrong.
Good. Okay. So before you get into the opinion, like I said, I can't wait to hear how common is parental alienation. I have numbers that I've heard, but in your 50 years of experience, how often do you see this happening?
I see it happening all the time. All right. The issue is it can be very active, parents talking about the other parent, or it can be very, very passive. All right. It can be very quiet and very subtle. It's going to happen. All right. When a child has to move back and forth between two places, it is going to happen in some degree. You can't avoid it.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the subtle ways that alienation occurs? Because I think everybody in these situations, especially the people we work with, think I'm not doing anything wrong.
hmm hmm So look at the reality. All right. Think about yourself. How motivated would you be if you were required to move from the house that you live in now to a different house? Let's say I'm going to get you an apartment. So 2 days a week, you have to go live in the apartment. All right, 3 days a week, you can come back to your house. And then 3 more days, you have to go back to the apartment. All right, we can keep this going. All right, there is no adult on the planet that would choose to do that. Yet
Mhm.
we put our children through that and don't have a second thought about what's the emotional impact of not having the security of place. We get attached to person, place, or thing,
Mhm.
right? And so divorce disrupts our attachment to person because mom and dad are not easily accessible to me in the same place. It disrupts my attachment to place, right? So the only attachment that has not been significantly disrupted is my attachment to thing. So don't be surprised, right, if your children suddenly have a stronger need for a particular item in their repertoire. All right, because they have to have attachment in order to have a healthy emotional life. And we've disrupted the two strongest attachments, and that's to person and place. We're doing it all wrong. If you want to look at what's the developmental process for a child, what should we be doing to facilitate strengthening and growth emotional strength of a child, we shouldn't be using this system.
Okay, so what can we do instead? Because we know also that it's not healthy to stay in a very abusive
No,
marriage or relationship. So what options are there?
no, it's not. All right. So it's an incredibly difficult process. All right. If mother and father can spend any time together in the same place, there should be routines for the children to have access to mother and father at the same time. So I always ask, all right, could you go out for a hamburger together, all right, and have all come along? Could you sit, quietly in a restaurant and listen to them chatter, right? Enjoy their conversation, laugh at things that they do that are silly, all right? Can you sit close to each other when your kid is playing soccer,
Hmm.
right?
Okay,
Or
so
violin recital,
okay,
right?
so with that, so the people in our community are unfortunately dealing with a lot of extreme domestic violence situations, and so
That's
it's yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Right, right.
But
Yeah. So
it's important, right? Because the child is genetically half mother and half father.
right.
It's still important that you, as a parent, respect that fact about your child.
Yeah, important.
Have to find something that you can say or something that you can experience in your child that is like the other parent and has value.
Okay. So, can you give me a couple of examples that don't involve
Let's
sitting? Because this
let's
sounds
let's take
very helpful.
strong-willed, all
Okay.
right? All right, because if your spouse is strong-willed, and if we're talking about a strong-willed male, because we don't raise men to actually have access to their emotions, and that's why our jails are full of men. But if your spouse is a male, strong willed, it's going to be manifest in terms of acting out loud,
Hmm.
aggressive behavior. All right.
Hmm.
They're typical, those are common in
Yeah.
divorce situations. But strong willed is a positive characteristic if I can manage it, right? If I can train it, if I can focus it. I want to be able to stand up for myself. So let's say you're a fourth grader
Hmm.
and the teacher doesn't like the fact that your little boy keeps raising his hand and asking questions in math. Why does it work that way? How does it work that way? All right. And the teacher can't answer the questions. All
Hmm.
right. The teacher gets mad at the kid, brings you in for a teacher's conference, right? And says he's being belligerent. Well, he's
Hmm.
not being belligerent, right? He's being curious. So here's
Mm.
opportunity for you to support his strong will, all right? And confront the teacher and say he needs answers to those questions. And if you can't answer them, be honest, tell him you can't answer that, but you will find someone who can, all right? And then go do the work to find someone, even if you have to call the local college and find a math professor that can explain and answer those questions for him. All right. Don't take the attitude that the teacher is right. Help your child with that strong will to see that it's an asset, right? Not something that needs to be squelched, because if you squelch it, it's going to come out in negative ways. Right now, it's coming out in positive ways, right? Why does that work?
So how do I, as a parent, so let's say my ex is really strong-willed. It's been a problem, obviously, in our relationship. We're splitting up. I have a son who's a fourth grader who's strong-willed. How can I, as a parent, connect that to his father to show that I support that trait in his father, despite what's happened between his father and I, and I support that trait in him. So it's almost like indirect support of his relationship with his father, and the fact that he is half of his father and his personality reflects that.
That's right. So you're going to be honest, you're going to be transparent, right? You inherit this strong will from your father. This strong will is a good thing. It will serve
Mhm.
you well long term if you manage to learn how to take charge of that strong will and not let the strong will take charge of you.
Ooh, I
You
love this. So helpful.
that strong will, right? So it's great to ask questions, but if the teacher is struggling to answer those questions, it is not great to call her names.
Right. And to
Right,
also understand, as a former teacher myself in high school, that teachers have to manage often 20 something other kids at the same time. So they don't have the attention to keep interrupting the lesson to answer all the questions. So maybe we
right,
can talk about it after school.
right. Yeah, let's make time, all right, to meet with the teacher before school, after school. I don't want to take your recess time because I really
Mhm.
want you to get that energy out, but you need to legitimize the character qualities
Mhm.
boy or girl has inherited from the other parent, but then teach them how to manage that, how to
Mm.
use it effectively. All right, but we could take any character quality. There are always ways to manage it and use it effectively.
Yeah, and I love this idea because it doesn't involve conflict.
Right, right.
So are there certain mistakes that you see parents making in situations like this often that we ourselves should be aware of, especially in those insidious ways that we think I'm not doing anything?
That's right. All right. So, the obvious is, you're not going to talk in a negative way about father or mother.
Mhm.
Uh, but, right, um, 96% of communication is really nonverbal,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, you know, your children are waiting for father to come pick up, and it's after time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. What's your body doing? What's your face doing? How are you interacting with your children? Your body communicates so much more than your words. So take yourself seriously, right? Really, even if you have to videotape yourself. And I think that's a great idea, right?
Mhm.
Videotape yourself when you're talking to that other parent, when you're waiting for that other parent to pick up, videotape yourself, and then go take a look at what are you communicating to your children. Your children
Mhm.
typically within earshot when you're
And
talking
eye shot.
and eye shot,
Mhm.
right? So videotape yourself and then take a serious look at it and ask yourself, if you were a kid and you were watching this movie, what mood, what tone, what feeling would you have? And then you have to start training
Yeah.
yourself to have a completely different approach, not for yourself, right? Because you'd really like to be mad and irritated and pissy, but for your children, because they're still half of that person. They have a relationship with that person, regardless of what that relationship is, you still have to honor the fact that they carry that genetic material in them, and you want to help them learn how to relate to it in a positive way, not a negative way.
Yeah, so important. And I'm thinking about a lot of people that we work with, because domestic violence has happened and sometimes extreme physical stuff, is
Correct.
there's fear. And during drop-offs or handovers, they are very nervous, and we often try to work with them and say, we have to get rid of this fear because your kids are absorbing your fear. And so even though you might not be saying explicitly that the other parent is dangerous, you're sending the message that the other parent is dangerous, and your kids are absorbing that and thinking, I maybe should be scared to go with that other parent because
That,
look how scared you are.
that's right. And what we often don't realize is that the spouse who gives him or herself permission to be aggressive, dominant, intimidating is not necessarily using that part of themselves in interacting with their children,
Hmm.
right? It is true that your spouse could be managing that characteristic in such a way that the interaction with the children is not exposed to that part of their personality. So you have to give your spouse the opportunity to build a connection with the children, because once again, right, the kids carry that genetic material and
Yeah.
they need to like themselves.
It's interesting because I think people are afraid of letting their children build that connection because they think, well, if that person was dangerous and violent to me,
Right.
then they're not capable of being a good parent. What do you think about that?
Sometimes that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So it does take discernment. Sometimes they are not capable. But it's true that, so think about the different ways that you experience yourself in a variety of different situations. The person you are when you come home is different from the person you are when you go to work. It's different from the person you are when you show up in your family of origin. I remember a man that I worked with years ago just gave a beautiful explanation about going back home. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, no matter what I do, no matter what I know, all right, when I get close to my childhood home, it's like I cross a magic twanger and I turn into a 12-year-old. Just right. I can't help it. I'm mature. I'm grown up. I'm responsible. But, I go into my parents' house and suddenly I turn into this emotional mess,
Yeah.
right?
We
They're
can all, I think we can all
angry.
relate to that.
And so we all have different parts of ourselves. So we have to keep that in mind, that the adult part that intimidated me in the relationship does not have to be turned on in interaction with the children. So, let's treat people as human beings. We have a variety of different parts. We use those parts in different situations. Yes, do I want to be observant and cautious and really appreciate if my ex spouse can use a parental part of themselves when interacting with the children, and not become the monster that I've experienced
Mm-hmm.
a marriage relationship? Yes, I want to do my research. I want to know that. But I also want to give that parent permission to establish relationship with the children, because the children are a part of that person. I want my children to understand those parts of themselves so they can make good choices, good decisions, and won't follow the same path.
Yeah, yeah. As you were talking about people being different in different situations, I heard of a term from a parenting coach named Mike Barsamian, and it's called code switching. And he said it's almost like when kids go to school, middle school or high school, where every class there's a different teacher with a different personality and different rules and expectations, and we learn to switch
Right.
who we are and how we're expected to behave, and we adapt.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
So
so it sounds
uh,
similar.
imagine that your ex-spouse has all of those capabilities. Now, some people don't,
Hmm.
and that's an extra situation. If you have an ex-spouse that is addicted, for example, right, all of their capabilities get disrupted by the addiction. So we're talking about a completely different situation there. And maybe that's a situation where I really want the visitation to be monitored. So
Hmm.
there's a safe person available to the child. But,
Yeah.
we have different parts of ourselves. All right. I'm on this call and video with you, right? I'm very different from the way that I interact with my grandchildren
Hmm.
or the way I interact with my children.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
all those capabilities.
Yeah. Let's get into the alienation part again as well, is when we're dealing with somebody and we see our kids pulling away from us, especially in the midst of or just before or after a difficult divorce or separation, and especially a custody battle. What should we be doing or saying or like to mitigate this, if there's anything?
Right. So we should expect alienation,
Okay.
right? There's been tension throughout the environment for our children when you go through a divorce. There's no way to avoid it. There's no way to stop it. There's been incredible tension that they're exposed to. So we should expect alienation. And so I'm going to ask you to think about what happens when you adopt a dog that has been beaten.
Mm.
You do not expect that animal to immediately, come to you
Hmm.
and relate to you and enjoy being with you. The same thing is true with your children. You really cannot expect them to immediately kind of relax and be comfortable. You have to do the work to gradually move towards them in a way that is safe, that is reassuring. You have to set your own ego aside, right?
Hmm.
Because right, your kids are in your car or your truck, right? They're in your apartment or your house, but they want to withdraw to their room,
Hmm.
right? They want to go hide or they want to get into a book or into the television or into a video
Hmm.
game. Respect that.
Mm.
Same way that if you adopted an animal that had been abused, you would respect that it's going to take time to build safety, to provide comfort. It's work, right? So get some help.
Yeah.
Go to somebody, join a group that is focused on helping divorced people figure out how to rebuild relationship with your children because it is a rebuilding process. You can't just say, okay, let's take all the time that we spent in court and fighting each
Hmm.
other, have our kids set that aside and just remember what it was like 4 years ago, all right?
Hmm.
We're having fun together and playing games in the backyard. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So it really involves a lot with changing our own perspective and great analogy with adopting an abused animal like a dog, and comparing it, because of course we wouldn't have those expectations. So it's a good way to think about it. So let's say time has passed, and instead of the relationship improving, it's getting worse. So we're moving from mild, where a child is like, I don't know if I want to go with you, where now I don't want to even interact with you at all. And I'm going into my room the whole time. At the table, I won't even look at you, where it's getting worse rather than better.
Right.
Now what?
All right. So I may have a perspective that is shocking.
No, I love it. Go ahead.
But I have counseled parents, right, to look at that realistically. And there is a time in which you say, I respect the fact that you cannot connect right now. So you don't have to spend time with me. There will be a time in the future when you will want to connect. You will be curious. And that curiosity will bring you back into relationship. All right. And at that point, we can process what's been happening in the time frame that we haven't had as much contact. Do I want that alienated parent to maintain some form of contact? Yes, but it doesn't have to be actual visitation. All right. It can be write that kid letters. All right. Record things that you can provide for that child later on in life. All right. And if you're writing letters, make sure you keep copies of them, because when that child is 20, 25, 30, all right, they will come back. We're born connected. Seek connection. All right. If nothing else, they will come back out of curiosity. Right? To figure out, who are you, this parent of mine? Who are you? And why did all of this happen to me? They will have that curiosity. They will have that desire to understand themselves. And that's the time that you want to be able to engage them. Sometimes, and most of the time, this alienation piece will take place for adolescents, right? School, high school, they will start refusing.
14 seems to be the magic age we see the most frequently.
Right. And so, they will refuse. And in the extreme cases, I really do counsel parents to be respectful of that. Right.
It's interesting because it's shocking. And, because we hear lawyers and dealing with custody, we also deal with a lot of therapists and what's the best thing. What you're saying, although maybe not always a popular opinion, we have seen happen effectively in real life more frequently than we'd like to imagine, because by doing that, and I'm not saying it's appropriate in every circumstance, but you're giving a child a sense of agency.
Right.
And you're showing, I respect your judgment, and I already am confident that this is just temporary. And so I'm not going to beg you and put my own ego first on what I want and be so scared that this is the end forever. But to say, I recognize what you're going through. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to push myself on you. I'm going to step back. The other thing that, Gloria, you reminded me of is we have a client right now who was in a very long, like over a decade of post-separation legal battle. And in the process, one of her children, teenager, did lose contact for a couple of years. And as part of a settlement, this person agreed to have dinners with their ex and the child together
Yeah,
initially, and then to see. And one of the lawyers said, your child, more than anything, needs to see the two of you attempting to get along,
that's right.
communicate. So it fits right in with what you said. And when we met with this person earlier, I said, I think it's very courageous of you. I know how uncomfortable it is for you that you've been in this war for more than 10 years to agree to
Hmm.
say, I will be willing to have dinner together with everybody, even though I'm going to hate it, but I'm
Right,
going to fake it. And this already happened. There's more to come, but it went way better than expected.
right. War is a great analogy, right? So think about the United States and Japan, the United States and Germany. All right. We did not walk away. We rebuilt those countries. So you have to apply that to a divorce situation as well. You are a family.
Mm-hmm.
You have to rebuild that family. It will look dramatically different, but it's incredibly important to your children to do that rebuilding, however it plays out. A long time ago, I had a father in a very serious alienation situation. The mother was just constantly bad mouthing the father, right? Kids are middle school, high school, and so they start the refusal
Mm-hmm.
process. I don't want to go and spend any time with dad. And I said to the guy, I said, look, respect that, but write a letter to each one of these kids every week, put it in a box because they will come to you and they will be amazed, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you cared for them all throughout that time. And they'll read every one of those letters.
So
And
you're
they
saying
did.
not even to send it. I mean, you said to have contact, but not to send
Yeah.
things
In
all the
this
time.
particular situation, the letters should not have been sent. They would have been burned on site.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they would have been burned on site in a ritual way with all the children.
Yeah.
So this particular situation, I said to him, put them in a box. Your kids will return. They really will return. And they did, every one of them.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think people feel like it's never going to happen, and then it does, and you just have to be ready.
Yep. Yep. You have to be able to demonstrate that you were thinking about them. You were caring for them. You were longing for relationship with them.
Hmm.
It can't be just, surprise. Oh, you're my child? Oh, never
Yeah.
thought about it before.
Yeah. So I want to shift now to the experience of a parent who has been rejected, because this is one of the most heartbreaking things that a person has to go through. Um, Nobody ever thinks that something like this would happen to them.
Right,
Most of the people we work with who are experiencing this had a very strong bond with their child
right,
when they were younger, and they just say, I cannot believe that this is my reality.
right.
I'm absolutely heartbroken. My life is consumed. I feel suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you give to parents who have lost contact for, because of the dynamics fallout from the relationship? How can they go on living every single day with all consuming heartbreak?
Yeah, hang in there for sure. Right. Do trust that whether your children are genetically yours, all right, or you adopted these children, they still have a connection with you. So they will be curious. They will be interested. I would say 99% of them are going to seek you out at some point, and you just have to be ready for that. It isn't being patient for that. It really is being ready for that. So if you're not writing letters, all right, do something so that when it happens, you will have clear evidence that you have stayed connected with that child, with those children, that you didn't just walk away and forget and say they don't exist for you.
Yeah.
So you need to have the evidence that they have been a part of your life.
Okay. What about the whole identity, especially for so many women who say, I'm a mother. This is who I am.
Mm,
And now I've lost my children. So I'm trying to imagine that they'll come back in some years. But
right.
in the meantime, how do I deal with myself?
Well, it is painful, right? And you can't deal with it on your own. Don't try,
Mhm.
right? Get help, right? Get individual help, get a group help system going for yourself. And if your family, your extended family is available to you, get help from them as well. All right.
Mhm.
You're born connected to another human being. We seek connection all throughout our lives. It is critical that you value connection with others who understand that this is difficult, this is painful, this is traumatic, and that you do have to get support in order to tolerate it. Because this can go on for a very long time.
Yeah. And then just lastly, what about the shame? I mean, we often think about how if there were a child who, God forbid, died, the community would be rallying around supporting you. But when you have a child that refuses to talk to you, and most people don't understand the
Right.
dynamics around that. And so that there's a sense of I'm going to be judged because, especially as a woman, as a mother, that my own kid won't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
People think what did you do wrong? How evil must you be? So
And
how can I,
you do have to expect that, right? That's normal
um,
in the society. You do have to expect that. You do not have to expose yourself to that over and over and over again,
mhm,
right? So if this is the attitude of your extended family or some piece of your extended family, limit your contact with
mhm.
people, all right? It's poison.
Yeah,
And would not consciously choose to go drink poison every weekend. All
right.
right. So if visiting extended family leads to that kind of communication, don't do it every weekend. Figure out what can you tolerate, right? Maybe you can do 2 or 3 high holidays in
Hmm.
the year, but you can't do every weekend because you're going to be shamed.
Hmm.
No one can tolerate a diet of shame. We're just not built to tolerate a diet of shame. So find support systems, find people who really do understand, find people that have a longer term view, all
Hmm.
right? Say to you, there will come a time when your child will be curious, your child will be interested. So you have to anticipate that. You have to be ready for that.
Yeah. Wow. Gloria, I don't know if you saw one of the comments earlier that said something like, this is the best advice that I've ever heard.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, it's so helpful and interesting, especially in terms of shifting perspective and dealing
Need
with
support.
ourselves.
You can't do this on your own, right? You have to have support. So reach out for it in any way that you possibly can, all right? There are probably groups within walking distance
Yeah.
of where
Yeah.
you There are groups online, all right? There are individual coaching opportunities online. There are things that you can read. I mean, give yourself the support structure that is really going to help you do the waiting game. This is a
Mhm.
wait, but
Yeah.
these children have a connection with you before the divorce. Right? They have a connection with you, regardless of whether you have been a very active parent or a passive parent. They still have a connection with you. They are human. They are curious. And at some point in time, they will want to know more. You have to anticipate that. You have to be ready for that.
Yeah. Well, again, Gloria, you've blown me away with,
Well,
with, yeah, the advice and wisdom. How can people find you?
you can, best way is through my website. And the website is www.drvanderhorst.com. So it's www.drvanderhorst.com. You can find all kinds of resources there. Oh, one thing that I encourage everybody to do, I have the feelings sheet, a list of feeling words there. It's 2 or 3 pages, 3 or 4 columns on each page. Download that, right? You need to expand your feeling vocabulary if you're going
Mhm.
to your children, and they need to have their feeling vocabulary expanded. So have it available when you have the opportunity to spend time with your children so that they can expand their own feeling vocabulary. Our brain holds on to every feeling that we could ever experience, but we can't easily find those feeling states. All right. We learn mad, sad, irritated, frustrated. We got a very small feeling vocabulary. But
Yeah.
if you're interacting with a child and you see them that they're definitely struggling to figure out, how to communicate what they are experiencing, put the feeling sheet in front of them, let them run through it. The feeling will just pop right off the page. Your
Mm.
brain is brilliant. It wants to help you, and it wants to help you be connected to other people. So it will find the feelings that you're experiencing so that you can talk to your parent about it. It will find the feelings for you so you can talk to your child about it. All right. And by that, you expand everybody's vocabulary and move closer to each other.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about having that emotional literacy is also very validating when it's like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
when you name something, it feels better.
It does. Right. It's immediate relief.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Brilliant.
thank you again so much, Dr.
Well,
Gloria. And I'm hoping we can maybe do some mental health panels together
that would be
as we
great.
move forward. All
That would
right,
be.
good. So
Thanks.
we'll be in touch soon. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.